As the story begins, we meet with this hardcore gamer. He has just finished a game after playing it for 3 years, and he is not satisfied because the game was too easy for him. He is bored and wishes for a super hard game that takes at least 10 years to finish. So he starts searching the internet for one such game, and a game suddenly pops up on his screen that promises to never end. This makes him interested in the game, and when he sees the game has an extremely difficult mode called Hell Mode, he becomes excited and immediately chooses it. Next, he is asked to choose a character class, and he sees it has a ton of options with each having its own difficulty rating. As he continues to scroll down, he sees the summoner class has the highest difficulty. He reads in the description that this class is still in alpha testing, so he thinks it will be a fun challenge in his boring life. But as he starts the game, he gets sucked into it. Next thing he knows, he is reborn as a kid inside the game in a serf family. His father picks him up and names him Alan. 1 year has passed since Alan was born in this world. He used to be 35 years old, uneducated, broke gamer, so he has no regrets with his new life, even though he has been born into a serf family. His father Rodan is a hard-working young man, and his mother Teresa is a pretty and sweet girl in her teenage years. Since he is born into the game, Alan is trying to activate his summoning power, but so far he has been unsuccessful. One night, as he attempts to activate his summoning powers, he calls for his status window to appear, and a book appears out of thin air. This causes Alan to scream in surprise, but he manages to hide the book before his parents come inside the room. He starts acting like he is in sleep, so his parents think he must be talking in his sleep. After his parents leave the room, he again summons the book. He then checks his status and learns he is a level 1 summoner. On the next page, he finds the details on his summoning skills, and he learns he can only summon 1 H rank insect at his current level. On the last page, he finds a letter from the administrator of the game, apologizing for sending his grimoire late. After reading all the details, Alan decides to summon the insect. But nothing happened no matter how many times he tries, and he has to figure out how it works since Hell Mode has no tutorial or FAQs. After thinking about it for some time, he figures he first needs to use the create skill. He uses the skill and creates a H rank insect card. As he is about to use that card to summon the insect, he senses his mother is coming, so he again acts like he is in sleep. But his 1-year-old body begins to feel really sleepy, so he decides to summon the insect tomorrow. The next day, after his mother leaves him alone in the room to sleep, he immediately uses the card to summon the insect. As he does that, his room gets filled with blue shining orbs, and a giant green bug appears out of the book. Alan notes it's a giant grasshopper. He tries to give it some commands and learns it's a dumb bug who can't follow any order. He checks the grasshopper status in the grimoire to find any instructions on how to control it. He sees it doesn't have a name, so he names it Denka. Then he notes it has buffs, so he checks his own status and notices Denka has boosted his status. After several days of messing around with his skills, Alan eventually managed to summon another H-rank creature he named Mousy. Mousy is as dumb as Denka, but at least it is smart enough to use its ability whenever he tells it to. He also learns he can stock up to 10 cards for each creature, but more importantly, all the buffs on those cards add up to his status. For example, stacking 10 cards of Mousy, he has become strong enough to surpass any regular baby by a large margin. As his mother takes him outside the house, he sees his father has returned from the hunt. Rodan tells him he took down a boar today and asks if he wants to see it. Alan excitedly tells him he wants to, so Rodan puts him on his shoulders to take him to the boar. On the way, Rodan spots a flock of alba herons flying towards north, and tells Alan that he named him after them since they can use their wings to fly freely wherever they want. They resume their journey and arrive at the spot where Rodan and his group have hunted down the boar. Alan gets surprised after seeing how huge it is. Rodan's friend Gerda comes there to say hello, and he tells everyone their hero has arrived. Everyone starts cheering for Rodan for taking down the huge boar. Then Gerda sees Alan and notices he does have black hair and eyes as Rodan mentioned. Alan says hello to him and asks how strong the boar is. He tells him boars are tough C-rank monsters and they need at least 20 men to take down one. This gives Alan a benchmark that they need 20 men to take down a C-rank monster. After more months, Alan finally hits the level up. He feels the gamer adrenaline rush in his blood and opens his grimoire to see that now he can finally create G-rank creature cards. He also unlocks a skill that fuses summons together to make a powerful summon. Alan wants to fuse some summons together, but he doesn't have enough MP, so he quickly eats all the food he can and tries to fuse 2 Mousa together. But it didn't work because he still lacks MP even though he recovered his MP to max. So he tries creating G-rank card and the same thing happens, which makes him really disappointed that he can't use any of his new skills. By the time Alan turned 3 years old, he got enough boost to his status that now he can use those skills. So first he uses his fuse skill skill to fuse two G rank cards to create a new G rank bird card. He names the bird Chappie, and as he summons it, it comes out of the grimoire. He notes that Chappie's ability is voice mimic, so he thinks it will be good for tricking enemies. Then he summons Hopper the frog and Molly the sharp nail mole. Hopper can use provoke that can be used to distract enemies during battle, and Molly can use dig that can be used to create many pitfall traps. But this is not the only thing he does in his life. Now he has to daily practice duels with Gerda's daughter Krina. Alan doesn't like this one bit because even after pouring all his buffs into agility, he can barely keep up with the speed of Krina, and she beats him every single time, so you can see why he hates dueling with her. By the evening, his parents return after working on the fields, and Alan wants to help his mom since now she is pregnant. After eating dinner, Alan tells his father he wants to help them harvest the taters since mom has a big tummy. But his parents don't want their 3-year-old kid to work on the field. They want him to enjoy life while he can, because eventually he has to do this work. This makes him remember he is born in a serf family and his fate is to work on the fields. His mother asks why he was throwing rocks at the tree. Alan tells her he was doing that so he can protect her from monsters, but actually he was just seeing if he can learn other skills besides summoning. His father gets happy hearing this and mentions he can't wait for his appraisal ceremony. Alan wonders what that is, and they tell him it's a divine ceremony to determine what kind of talent he has. After several more months, Alan becomes capable of summoning a creature for a whole day without running out of MP. He is still getting beaten in duels by Krina every single day, and he is not getting any improvement in that field since he is summoner. As they are playing outside the home with Krina, his mother suddenly goes into labor. So Rodan immediately sends Krina to fetch her mom. While Rodan and Alan tend to Teresa, Alan goes to boil some water for his mom, and he wishes he had played a birthing sim, since he and his father are totally clueless what to do in these situations. Luckily for them, Krina brings her mom Mithida before the time runs out, and Mithida throws all the men out of the room so the ladies can work in peace. That night Alan has to sleep outside of his house, and as the sun comes out, they wake up after hearing the screams of a newborn baby. They immediately rush inside the house and see Teresa has given birth to a healthy young boy. Rodan names his second son Mash. Alan begins to wonder why he was reincarnated in this game. He remembers in his past life he was in total mess, and now he decides he will hoard the best equipment and max out all of his stats, so he can free his family from the drudgery of serfdom. After Alan finally turns 5 years old, his father decides to take him to the appraisal ceremony. Alan asks his father what the appraisal ceremony is like, so he explains it's a special event that everyone from a serf to a noble has to participate in when they turn 5 years old. And if you turn out to have talent, you can rise out of serfdom to a better life. They meet Gerda and Krina on their way, since Krina is also the same age as him and is going to the same ceremony. They arrive at the local village where the ceremony is going to take place. Alan sees the well-groomed line of kids outside the church and wonders if they are commoners like them. They all stand in line with the others, and as the bishops open the gate of the church, they tell the crowd that their god Elmia blesses all of them equally. Therefore, most of the heroes in the past are from serf families. Alan figures this is the game configuration where classes like hero and swordlord have to start from a low social class, and he thinks it is a good thing that everyone from top to bottom has to undergo the ceremony. The bishops instruct everyone to come inside. As he walks inside the church, he sees the statues of gods worshipped by the church, and he recognizes the statue of Elmia, the god of creation, who is actually the administrator of this game. Then the bishops begin the appraisal ceremony and ask village chief Deboji to send his son Palomas for appraisal. They tell him to place his hand on the crystal ball so any talent he has will be inscribed on the metal plate behind him. As Palomas places his hand on the crystal ball, it glows lightly and his status appears on the metal plate. The bishop reads it and tells them his talent is to be a merchant. Deboji is happy that he has a talent to be a merchant, and Alan notes having any talent is a cause for celebration in this world. Because many people don't have any talent, all they can do is cry on their bad luck. The bishop calls a boy named Dogora for appraisal, and they learn he has a talent for using axes, so he jumps for joy. The bishops continue to appraise all the kids there, and in the end only Krina and Alan are left. As Krina places her hand on the crystal ball, it glows brightly. The bishop reads her status and tells them it's a miracle, since she has one of the best talents, the Sword Lord. Everyone is happy for Krina that she has such an awesome talent, and Alan finally figures out why ridiculously OP she is. When they call Alan for appraisal, he thinks his parents will now know he is a summoner. He touches the crystal ball, and it shines so brightly that the whole room fills with its light. But when they ask the bishop about his talent, he tells them he has no talent. So Alan quickly goes to check the status board and sees the devs have glitched the text where his talent was supposed supposed to be written. Alan gets angry at the devs for not debugging the game, but his father thinks he is sad, so he hugs him like a caring parent. They return home and Rodan tells him talents don't matter to them and they are going to love him forever. Alan feels happy that he was born in this family even though they are poor. As Alan sleeps on his bed, he learns from today's event that he is the only one in this world who is playing on Hell mode, and this is the reason why all of his attributes are E rank. As a result, he has to gain 100 times more experience to level up, and he thinks this would make normal people pull their hair out. But he tells himself he is going to put this weak sauce game in its place. Next day, as they head towards Gerda's house to celebrate Krina's newly discovered talent, Alan asks his mom why Dad is acting weird. She tells him his mood is off ever since he got home last night. They arrive at Gerda's house, and Mithida offers the men some liquor the village chief gifted for celebration. But Rodan refuses to take a drink even though he really wants to taste it, and Alan wonders if he is jealous that his daughter became a sword lord. Rodan tries to pour a drink for Gerda, but Gerda refuses to take it this time because Rodan is pouring with a sour look on his face. They start arguing over it, and Gerda asks why he is trying to cut ties with his family. So Rodan explains Krina has an extraordinary talent that one day will make her a noble, and talented people like her shouldn't waste their time socializing with serfs like them. Alan realizes he is trying to do them a favor they didn't ask for, but Gerda refuses to accept his logic and the two men start fighting like little kids. Luckily for them, they have wives who literally smack the sense into their wild brains. The two men calm down and Alan asks Mithida if they always butt heads like this. She tells him they used to be hotheads who threw punches at each other all the time, but fatherhood has helped them calm down. Teresa adds that the four of them are actually childhood friends who grew up in the same village. They moved together to this new village and helped each other build their houses. After the men calmed down, they drank the liquor which they had last tasted at their weddings. Next day, a villager informs Gerda that the Order of the Knights is coming to see Krina. So they take Krina to the spot where the knights are supposed to come, and as they wait for them, Dogora starts trash-talking Alan for standing with a talented Krina. Although Alan didn't mind him, Krina was ready to throw some punches at him. Luckily for him, the Order of the Knights arrives, which is led by the captain of the Knights Sword Master Xenoph. The village chief bows his head to welcome them to his village and calls Krina to meet with the Knights captain. Krina introduces herself to Xenoph and Xenoph informs Gerda that they are going to hold a fencing duel between Krina and the vice captain of the Knights. This shocks Gerda and he tries to explain that her daughter is just a little kid. But Xenoph refuses to listen to whatever he says and he warns them that falsifying the results of the appraisal ceremony is punishable by death. He announces they are going to hold a fencing duel to determine if her talent is real. When Gerda tries to beg mercy for her daughter, Xenoph warns him if she doesn't fight, they will execute her and her family. As Krina sees a real sword for the first time in her life, she excitedly agrees to fight in the duel so she can use it. They give her the sword and she holds that sword in one hand like it's nothing. Her opponent is Vice Captain Lebrand, who has the talent of a spear user. As the duel begins, Krina launches a flurry of strikes at him, but Lebrand blocks each of them easily. He then kicks Krina and she smashes into a wall behind them. Everyone loses their cool over this since this is all too much for a kid like Krina. But just then Krina unknowingly activates her extra skill and launches a series of hard-hitting strikes at Lebrand. This time the strikes are too powerful for Lebrand to block and he almost loses his head. Xenoph declares the duel is over and the winner is Krina. Lebrand accepts his defeat in front of everyone. Gerda is surprised his daughter actually defeated the vice captain of the Knights, but more than that he is just happy she survived. Xenoph has no doubt left that she is the real deal. He approaches the two of them and apologizes to Gerda for putting him through hell. He wishes to discuss her future with him, and after noticing he still doesn't trust him, he tells him to bring his friend along if it makes him comfortable. Gerda and Rodan agree and Xenoph takes them to the village chief's house to discuss Krina's future. As they all sit down at the dinner table, Alan wonders why Dogora and his dad are here, but more importantly he wants to sneak some Malmo fruits home for his mom. Xenoph notices Gerda is still grumpy about the whole thing, so he informs the village chief that his lord has decided to name this village Krina village to honor the sword lord. Then he explains why they were conducting the duel. He tells them a sword lord was born to the family of a count, and he went to serve the royal family but failed to meet expectations. So they again appraised him and found he was an ordinary swordsman. Afterward, they discovered other nobles had exaggerated their talents, so the king has made it mandatory to thoroughly verify all results. He again apologizes to Gerda and he finally accepts his apology. Xenoph tells him when Krina becomes 12 years old, she can go study at the academy and eventually serve directly under the royal family. Alan gets excited that there is an academy for people with talents, and Dogora wonders if he can gain admission to the academy. Xenoph tells him they will dispatch an instructor and tells him to do his best to earn admission into the academy. Then Xenoph wonders who Alan is because of his dark hair and eyes, so Rodan tells him he is his son. After learning Rodan is the famous boar hunter, Xenoph stands up to pay his respects to him. Rodan wonders how he knows about him. He tells him the Baron is fond of boar meat supplied by his village each winter, and he has heard a man named Rodan takes on the most dangerous role in the hunt. Alan realizes that hunting a boar is really a big deal, and because of that his dad is a hero. After the meeting ends, they head back to their homes, and Alan shows his dad he snuck out some fruits for Mom and Mash. He wonders if he did the wrong thing, so Rodan shows him he did the same and they laugh about it. After 2 years, Alan finally leveled up his summon skill. He excitedly opens his grimoire and sees that he has unlocked the enhanced skill, so he wonders if this will make his summons stronger. He also unlocks F-rank creature cards and wonders what type of creature he will make when he fuses them together. He gets hyped thinking that he might create a powerful dragon as his new summon. He is happy his card inventory also went up from 20 to 30, so he will now get 1.5 times more buffs. He decides to do some experiments later since he is out of MP. Alan returns home to eat dinner and tells his mom he will wash the dishes since she is again pregnant. As he starts gathering the dishes, he receives a message from the devs. He opens his grimoire and notes it's a message from Elmia. He says Elmia's name out loud, so his dad warns him they are not allowed to take his name in vain. Alan feels weird, so he asks his dad about the scar on his arm to change the subject. Rodan says the scar is gone because he passed a trial of gods during today's boar hunt. Alan wonders what that trial of God is, so Rodan says it's a special moment that occasionally happens when they hunt the monster. They feel a sudden burst of energy and get rid of all their wounds and exhaustion. Alan figures from the details that they are actually leveling up, but since they are all NPCs, they just call this a blessing or trials of the gods. Alan believes his dad must be pretty high level since he is a battle-hardened veteran at boar hunting. Alan checks his own status and notes he is still stuck at level 1 even though his summon skill went up. To level up, he needs to beat some monsters and gain experience, but as a serf, they are not allowed to leave the village without permission from the authorities. And the only time they can go outside is when they go hunting. So Alan tells his dad he wants to join him for hunting, but Rodan immediately tells him no since it is a dangerous job and could cost him his life. Alan decides not to argue with his dad. He returns to his room and opens his grimoire to read the message. He reads that the devs have fixed the glitchy text and explained that all his stats showing as E rank were due to the slower level ups in Hell mode. But after the fix, all his stats are comparable to Krina. Alan becomes happy and decides to experiment with his new skills. First, he uses his enhanced skill on Denka and it boosts its stats, but he notes the boosted stats don't buff his stats. He then summons Denka and he can tell it's boosted since it's glowing like Super Saiyan 3, even though its size didn't change. After going through a cycle of summoning and unsummoning, Alan learns that enhancement on a card doesn't go away even after the creature is defeated, so he decides he should enhance all his cards. After saying goodbye to his dad and helping his mom with the chores, Alan decides to use his fuse skill to create a new creature. And as he fuses an F-rank bird and insect card, the system gives him an F-rank grass card. Alan is disappointed with this card, but as he notes it gives him an MP buff, he becomes excited since he can now do way more stuff with extra MP. He then decides to summon the creature to see what it can do, and as it comes out he sees it is just a walking apple. Alan named it Appo, and as Appo shows him its status card, Alan notes it has a skill called Aroma. He tells it to use that skill so it goes underground and grows into a sapling. Alan notes it does smell like an essential oil, and he is happy their boring yard will soon become a botanical paradise. As he sees his mother is coming, he tells Appo to go back to being a card, but it doesn't work. So his mom sees it and wonders if it was always there. Alan plays dumb and tells her he doesn't know. Next, he has to duel with Krina, and just like always she beats him. But this time she feels he has gotten tougher, so he figures it is because his sword mastery skill has hit level 3, plus the expansion of his inventory gave him space to buff his attack and endurance. After playing with Krina, he goes to his yard to torture the poor tree. He has thrown more than 20,000 rocks at the tree, but his throw skill has still not leveled up. So he decides to quit practicing and focus on leveling up his summon skill, since he is already busy looking after Mash and helping his mom with the chores. As he is about to throw one last rock, he gets distracted when Mash tells him they now have a small garden. Alan has figured out by now now that Apo's skill can shorten MP recovery time from 6 to 5 hours. At night, Alan and Teresa wait for Rodan because he has not returned even though he was working close by today. Just then they hear some people shouting outside their house. They rush outside to see what's going on, and they see Rodan is injured and being carried by his friends towards their house. After coming inside the house, Greta informs them Rodan was hit by a boar fang right in the gut. Alan notes they straight up cauterized the wound to save his life, and Greta mentions they managed to keep him alive thanks to a healing herb called Mueller's flower. Teresa wonders how he got something so valuable, so he tells her he spent the gold he got when Knight Captain Xenov came to apologize for doing that to Krina. Others begin blaming that commoner for all this, and as they demand action against him, Mash wakes up from his sleep and comes out of his room. He starts crying, so they decide to head home and give them some space. After his friends leave, Teresa asks how this all happened. Greta tells her that a few days ago the village chief ordered them to let commoners join the boar hunt. Even though the boar meat is so valuable, no commoner has ever volunteered themselves to join them for a hunt, since it is too dangerous and every year many people lose their lives. Teresa wonders how the commoners got the courage to participate this time. So Greta tells her they heard talk of a hero among the serfs, and he believes it's Rodan since Xenov called Rodan a legend in front of everyone. So the commoners assumed they would be safe to join the hunt as long as Rodan was around. When the village chief ordered them to take some commoners with them, they couldn't refuse him even though they were against some amateurs joining them. And to make matters worse, there were total bums who wouldn't practice seriously. So on the day of the hunt, they gave them the easiest job of acting as bait for the boar. But when the time ultimately came, they chickened out and threw their whole strategy out in the gutter. The boar kept chasing the bait, and Rodan took the hit from the boar's fangs to save the commoner's life. After telling them everything, Greta also leaves. Alan begins to feel he is a loser since he has done nothing for his family. He tells his mom to take some rest, and he will take care of his father. But just then Rodan wakes up and they hug him. Alan decides he will not treat this world like a game anymore, and instead of focusing on leveling up, he will now help his family. Because for these people, this is a harsh world and they are doing everything they can to survive in it. Just then Greta arrives and gives them their share of boar meat. He assures Rodan they will make sure his family is taken care of over the winter, and he just needs to focus on getting better. Rodan is relieved to hear that. Alan tells Rodan this is the time he lets him take over all the house responsibilities, and he promises to keep their family safe. This surprises them, and it is hard for them to believe Alan can do this. Alan has decided he will not worry about drawing attention because of his strength. He fills 2 buckets full of water, so the villagers warn him it will be too heavy for him to carry. But Alan simply carries it like it's nothing, which surprises everyone. Alan has decided to pour every buff into his physical stats and ditch all the MP ones. Teresa thanks him for carrying the water, and he tells her it was nothing. Then he goes to help harvest the potatoes with Greta. Greta shows him how to pull them by the root. Alan pulls them out quite easily, so Greta tells him he is even stronger than he thought. Alan harvested 3 buckets of potatoes, but he is not happy since more than half of it will be going to the Baron as taxes. Just then the village chief and a commander enter their home. He offers them some fruit with his sympathies and orders the commoner to apologize. The commoner apologizes, and Rodan forgives him with a warning that he should be careful next time. Alan knows the apology is not going to fix anything, but he is happy his dad is such a cool guy. Teresa also scolds the guy for endangering the life of her husband. Just then Rodan's friends arrive to check on him, and they bring a care package their wives put together. Alan feels he has the best parents this world has to offer, and the next day he goes to the farm and makes a field in the middle of it. He then summons all his hoppers and sets some traps to catch some ducks or wild birds for his family. He tells them to use provoke so they act like bait for the prey, and he hides behind as he waits for prey to come. After waiting for some time, he sees a bird is coming, but it turns out to be an albaheron, a huge bird that easily destroys all of Alan's traps. Alan knows it's a pretty tough B-rank monster, so he decides to run. But then he sees his endurance skill is level 2 now, which can double his creature stats. And he has already enhanced every summon in his inventory, so he thinks he can fight that monster. So he throws a rock at the monster, then attacks it with his wooden sword. Then he summons Fido, his dog-like creature who can use bite as an attack. But they are not a match against the albaheron, and it easily defeats them. Alan gets smacked by the albaheron, and this time he feels the hit was harder since he is losing buffs from each summon creature that gets defeated. Now he can't even stand up, but he still defends himself with the sword when the albaheron attacks him. Alan manages to dodge its attack, and he summons his bugs he names suckers since they literally suck energy out of their target. The Albaheron begins to feel weak, and Alan frees himself from its claws. He then summons more suckers and Fido to attack the Albaheron and hit it on its head with his wooden sword. This was all it took to take down the Albaheron and receive 100 experience points for defeating it. He is beyond happy he beat his first monster. He takes the monster home, and as everyone sees with surprise, they ask Alan how he managed to beat that monster. He tells them it just landed near him and he defeated it with a surprise attack. So they think Alan is amazing, and his dad points out he got a cut on his cheek. Alan tells him he is fine, and Greta notes the bird has dog-like bite marks on its body, so he wonders if Alan bit it in order to defeat it. Alan becomes nervous and tells him he was fighting on pure instinct, so he doesn't know. Greta offers his help in bleeding out the bird for them. Alan notes he got a big lump on his head and figures he must have gotten that after playing nights with Krina. As Alan and Greta hang the bird to dry out its blood, Greta informs him it will drop 20 kilos after drying out. Then they are left with 40 kilos, but only half of that is edible meat, and its wings fetch a pretty good price. Alan is happy he is teaching him all this, but when Greta mentions they have to fork over 60% of it to the upper class, Alan complains they really have a bum deal, even though Greta tells him they are nice enough to not charge any taxes on small monsters like rabbits. Then he takes out a small magic stone from its body which is worthless for them, even though they are tax-free up to D-rank monsters. Greta feels a kid like Alan wouldn't be risking his life if his dad hadn't gotten hurt, so they think they can use that as leverage to negotiate a bigger cut with the village chief. Alan comes up with an idea, and they tell the chief they will fork over the entirety of its wings as tax, but they will keep the rest. The village chief says no to this idea and explains he can't do that since the Baron has ordered him to deliver even more meat this year. Alan figures this is why he was so insistent on having commoners join the hunt. Greta reminds the chief that because of him Rodan got badly injured, and his family is on the verge of starving to death. Alan starts acting like he is about to collapse due to hunger to increase pressure on the chief. The village chief has to agree to the deal since he owes a lot to Rodan for his work. Alan asks if they can keep the meat and give him the wings and magic stone in the future. The village chief agrees to the deal, hoping that it will motivate Alan to catch another one of them. With the deal done, Alan again sets up his traps and waits for the Albaheron to come. This time he managed to lure 2 of them, and as they land on the ground, he summons his suckers to suck some energy out of them. He then hit them on their head with rocks and attacked them with more of his summons. As he knocked them down on the ground, Alan delivered the finishing blow with his wooden sword to defeat them. He notes he has been hunting them for many days, and this is the first time he has not lost any summons during the fight. Then he receives a notification that he has gained 200 experience points, and his level has gone up to level 2. So he opens his status page and sees he has recovered all of his HP and MP. But his stat increases are only 60% of what they should be since he doesn't get the full benefits of level up. He is still happy though since it took him 6 years to finally hit level 2. Alan returns home with the birds, and his dad is surprised this time he got 2 of them. He tells him he just got lucky and beat them at the same time. Then he hangs the bird to dry and plays nights with Krina. As Alan plays with her, he feels relieved he met his goal of 10 monsters, and now they'll have enough meat to make it through the winter. Now the only thing he needs to arrange is firewood. At night he decides to tell his parents something very important. He tells them he heard an oracle when he was 1 year old in which the gods blessed him with power and wisdom. Teresa wonders what that means, so he explains he is smarter and physically stronger than the average person. But they also told him he should face trials beyond what even 100 men could accomplish. His parents get worried as they hear this, and Rodan notes the cut on his cheek has disappeared, so he must have cleared one of those trials. Alan acts clueless, or maybe he really is, but his mom wonders why nothing appeared in his results in his last year's appraisal ceremony. Alan tells her he got another oracle a couple of months ago, and the gods told him they take the slower progression of his trials into account. Therefore, the result of his attributes were low at the appraisal ceremony. Moreover, he actually has a talent, but it is too new to be recognized by the system. They become surprised and ask what kind of talent he has, so he tells them the gods never told him what it was. Alan decides not to tell his parents about being a summoner since he is worried some people might get the wrong idea that he can summon and control monsters. Teresa hugs him and wishes he would have told her sooner that he was throwing rocks at the tree and hunting dangerous monsters to overcome the trials of the gods. Rodan asks what he is going to do now. Alan says he wants to prove himself worthy and take them head on. Rodan decides to support him and asks if he should tell Greta about this, so Alan tells him it's okay. Winter finally arrives after some months, and Alan prepares the meat to take it to the market. He goes to the market with Greta to trade that meat for supplies. On the way he asks what the difference between between serfs and commoners is. Greta explains it's their social standing, and the 60% tax rule doesn't apply to commoners. Instead, they pay head tax, which means they pay 3 gold coins for each adult and 1 for each child every year. Alan finds it interesting and wonders if there is a way for a serf to become a commoner. Greta explains you need to make a tribute of 10 gold coins per person in the family. Greta has also heard rumors the Baron can reward people with the commoner status. Alan counts in his head that he will need 50 gold coins for his family to become commoners. Then they arrive at a grocery shop where Greta trades 5 packs of jerky for some sugar and flour. Alan also decides to do the same and trades 5 packs of jerky for some flour. Then they stop at a fruit shop where they trade some jerky for malmo fruits. After trading 1 pack of jerky for 4 days of firewood, Alan has more or less figured out how bartering works. So next time he goes alone to the market to do more research. As he trades his jerky with some stuff, he asks the shopkeeper how much that would cost to buy with money. The shopkeeper says 5 silver coins, and Alan asks the same question to the other shop owner to figure out the value of his jerky. He counts how many things he can get in exchange for 1 pack of jerky, then he calculates the value of those goods in money and figures out that 1 pack of jerky goes for 1 silver coin. He calculates that he needs 500 albaherans to earn 50 gold coins, and he is happy thinking it will just take some years. He goes to a pharmacy to buy any medicine that will recover MP. The shopkeeper says he doesn't have anything that fancy, so Alan starts looking at the other healing medicine, and he uses his grimoire to make some drawings of them. He then asks him about the Mueller's flour. The shopkeeper says he had one a month ago, but he sold it to a serf for 3 gold coins since he was practically begging on his knees to save his friend's life and promised to pay the remaining 2 gold coins later. He complains he lost money because he helped him. Alan realizes Greta is a real bro. He gives the shopkeeper some jerky and tells his medicine saved his father's life. He promises to bring more next time to appreciate his help. After coming out of the shop, he sees some weapons inside a shop that cost 50 silver coins each, and he calculates it's equal to 5 albaherans. Just then, trash-talking Dogora asks him what he is doing around his family shop. Alan decides to avoid a conversation with him, but Dogora tells him to become his minion if he wants to leave. So Alan challenges him for a duel with his wooden sword and tells him to grab whatever weapon he wants. Dogora comes back with a bat and attacks Alan, but Alan easily dodges all his attacks since he is too weak compared to Krina. Alan then defeats him with 1 strike and tells him he will come back to challenge him again. Alan returns home, and now his dad has gone back to his tip-top shape. After some more days, Dogora and the chief's son have become friends with Alan and Krina, and they occasionally gather at her house to play and practice. After playing with his friends, Alan returns home and tells his mom his sister Maella is so cute. Just then, his dad returns home with Greta. They tell them the village chief wants them to raise the number of boars they deliver to the Baron from 10 to 15, and for that he wants them to let the commoners join the hunt again. They can't say no to the order because it came directly from the Baron, and if they don't deliver 15 boars by this winter, they are going to recruit more serfs from elsewhere. Alan notes this will result in serfs who can't hunt losing their land. Greta adds they want them to hunt 20 boars next year, which is way dangerous, and they will have to hunt every 10 days to complete the quota. Everyone knows this is unfair and awful, but they don't have the luxury of choice. Alan tells them if they agree to hunt more, then they will keep expecting more from them over the years until it becomes impossible, and ultimately they will have to recruit more serfs. So he suggests letting the commoners join the hunt again. Greta opposes this since they are nothing but dead weight for them. Alan tells them they need to find a way to make them useful, and since he has spent countless hours across numerous games making characters as strong as they could possibly be, he knows how to integrate a newbie into a party for their safety and success. He asks them to let him handle this matter since he has the wisdom of God of creation Elmia.